Okay, let's get started. Compliance with the Open Public Meeting Law, I wish to state that on June the 7th, 2013, the notice of this meeting of the Upper Township Committee was posted on the official Township Bulletin Board, mailed to the Cape May County Gazette, the Atlantic City Press, the Ocean City Sentinel Ledger, the Herald Times, and filed with the Township Clerk. Tonight's meeting is being video recorded and will be available on UTTV Channel 2 and on the Upper Township website. You're hereby directed this announcement made a part of the minutes of this meeting. I would ask all to rise. In fact, I'm going to call the Boy Scouts up here, and would you lead us through the salute to the flag? Why don't we let our Eagle Scouts start the Pledge of Allegiance once everybody's up here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, guys. Barbara, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Here.
Mr. Corson?
Present.
Mr. Sarah?
Here.
Mr. Newman?
Here.
Mayor Colombo?
Here.
All members are present.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the regular May 28th regular and both sessions of closed session meeting minutes. Second.
Is there any corrections, deletions, omissions that anyone's aware of? Okay, hearing none. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Sarah?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Colombo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, now we have a number of presentations to start off our meeting with. There are three young ladies that have done very well in winning the New Jersey State Knights of Columbus Free Throw Championship. So I'm going to call up Logan Bloomstead, Kelsey Lee Noir, and Savannah Holt. Oh, excuse me. Forgive me, Kel. I apologize.
You guys got to stand up. Top here. Kind of leave pictures.
All right, so I'll read the presentations. Whereas Logan Bloomstead, Savannah Holt, and Kelsey Lee Noir has had an outstanding basketball season, winning the Council District 50 and Camden Diocese Regional Free Throw competitions for 13-year-old boys, 11-year-old girls, and 12-year-old girls. That they advanced to the 2013 New Jersey State Knights of Columbus Free Throw Championship held on April 7th at St. Gregory the Great in Hamilton Square. At the state championship event, Logan scored an impressive 24 out of 25 shots in his division. And let's see, Savannah had an impressive 22 out of 25 shots in her division. And Kelsey had 22 out of 25 shots to tie her division, and then clinched the championship by winning the tiebreaker with 4 out of 5 shots. Whereas it is appropriate that on behalf of the citizens of Upper Township, we recognize and congratulate Logan, Savannah, and Kelsey, and that the Township Committee, on behalf of the citizens of the Township of Upper, to extend to all three of those individuals congratulations on becoming the 2013 New Jersey State Knights of Columbus Free Throw Champions. So congratulations to all of you. You guys have done an outstanding job in being goodwill ambassadors for the township. And not only that, you've done incredibly well in the sport of free throws. So great job by all of you. Great job, guys, really.
It doesn't make much difference. I'm sure.
You are welcome to stay, or you're also welcome to leave. We know you have homework and other projects to do, so you can certainly do that as well. I'd also like to call up Avery Ryan Simpson. As is customary, this Township Committee recognizes the outstanding accomplishment of obtaining your Eagle Scout. And so I'll read the resolution for you. It says, whereas Avery Ryan Simpson of Troop 55, Tuckahoe, New Jersey, has recently achieved the designation of Eagle Scout in the Boy Scouts of America. Township of Upper wishes to acknowledge this outstanding accomplishment. The Committee of Upper Township extends its sincere congratulations to Avery on the occasion of his receiving the designation of Eagle Scout and commends him for his outstanding accomplishment and the completion of his Eagle Scout project consisting of the rehabilitation of a 12x8 shed at the Upper Township Middle School for the storage of gardening tools for the special education class. Avery solicited all the supplies through donations and organized a total yard cleanup around the shed. Be it further resolved that the Township Committee extends its sincere congratulations and best wishes to Avery's parents, family, and friends on this happy occasion, and that the Township Committee also extends its congratulations and appreciation to the Scoutmasters and others who give so freely and generously of their time for the benefit of our youths. So, congratulations, what a great accomplishment.
His brother was here a couple years ago.
I know. Do you have anything to say? This is a big moment. There's only, from what we understand, 2% of the Boy Scouts are able to obtain Eagle Scouts, so it's a great accomplishment. Look, you're on TV. It's all right, great job. Thank you. It's amazing the amount of projects that have been completed, not only by Avery, but a lot of the Boy Scouts in obtaining their Eagle Scout projects. And I challenge all of you guys that are back there to work hard to follow in Avery's footsteps and become Eagle Scouts yourselves. So congratulations to all of you. Congratulations to Troop 55. So thank you. Okay, with that, you guys are also welcome to leave if you have other things to do like homework and things like that, but you're certainly welcome to stay and for the meeting as well. So would you move on please for the resolutions, Barbara? Oh, okay, we could do that first. We'll do the report of the governing bodies. Do you have something, Barbara?
I have a couple of items. The first item is item number 14 on the agenda under new business. I'd like to remove that from the agenda due to unforeseen events. The requester has requested that we remove this from the agenda.
That's a lacrosse.
It's the Kansas lacrosse camp.
Okay.
And then the next thing is we have two upcoming special elections. We have a special primary election for U.S. Senate scheduled for Tuesday, August 13th, and the polling place hours will be 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. for that. And then we also have the special general election on October 16th. So we
Okay,
have,
and that's something that we'll put both on UTTV and our website.
Yes.
Okay.
That's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Oh, Daniel?
Nothing at this time, but we do have a handful of items for closed session, 2 contract negotiations, and a litigation matter.
Okay. Paul?
Thank you. Yes, I have a couple items. First, I want to let committee know that most likely this week, the contractor is going to be working out at Sam's Gulf Station in Tuckahoe, removing the tanks and starting the soil investigation to determine the extent of the contamination at that location. But at least the tanks will be out of the ground at that point.
Thank you, Paul, for heading that project up. That's something that started almost over 15 years ago.
Yes. The next thing is, I just want to give committee an update on the DOT's progress on the Route 50 Tuckahoe Bridge project. That project is out for advertisement. DOT hopes to have the contract awarded sometime either late June or early July, and then, which would anticipate a fall start of construction for the contractor. So that's another long-awaited project that's getting underway. I just want to let the committee know, we've had some beach crossovers in Strathmere that we still have some accessibility issues as far as after the storm. When we put some of the fence back, we had a lot of buildup of sand, and we weren't able to build step crossovers before the bird nesting season came in. So I'm going to look to purchase a couple of beach mats to kind of improve the accessibility to get up and over for the season, and give them a try.
And on that subject, there's a number of existing paths that have the crossovers that are very difficult to get through based on, buildup of dunes or whatever. I mean, Vincent Ave is a perfect example. There's probably a very narrow path where people can walk that is probably bumping into this existing, sand snow fence that's there, and then a high ridge that needs to be flattened out. It's dangerous. I saw several people have a hard time maneuvering back and forth over the weekend, and I'm concerned that someone may fall. And I think we need to look at all of those pathways that are pre-existing that have crossovers where the snow fence has built up. Vincent's a good example of what I'm talking about.
Right. And on most of those, last week we did go out and put up string fencing to keep people away from that higher that dune fence that got covered that's only maybe 6 to 8 inches exposed.
It's not even 6 inches.
And so that fencing, that temporary string fencing will keep the pedestrians away from it. But until the bird nesting season gets over, we can't get any mechanical equipment in there to move that volume of sand.
Well, we need to do something even by hand then, because it's downright dangerous right now. I mean, there's a slope off, and literally, people that are bringing like wagons with small kids and strollers are having a hard time maneuvering. I witnessed it several times over the weekend. We need to do something to at least flatten it out a little bit.
Okay, I'll discuss it with the...
Yeah, the board still something?
That would be a labor-intensive project to move that amount of sand that's in there.
Well,
No, we unfortunately cannot use machinery because of the nesting birds. The crossovers that we have access problems with those are right adjacent to the beach nesting area. I've requested to be able to use machinery in there, and the DEP has denied that request.
So for 3 or 4 birds, we could have people that could potentially break their legs. So we need to find a way to get a compromise here and take care of it, because it's dangerous right now.
We'll look at it again.
Have we ever reached out to the Department of Corrections?
Well,
Yeah, we have them at different times.
The sand fence, snow fence, whatever you want to call it, to build the dunes, but
I'll look into it this week again. And then the last item I had, if you remember a couple years ago, the committee adopted a resolution to start with the Sustainable New Jersey program. The first part of that program was really to, in order to be eligible and to start the certification process, was to establish what's called a green team, or a group of both township employees and residents that would encourage and look at the different initiatives that the Sustainable New Jersey encourages and does for certification, and to promote that type of sustainability. And Caitlin Wentz, a resident and an environmental studies major at Ramapo College, has come to the township and has made several requests that we kind of continue that process forward. She's kind of developed and written some of the proposed resolutions, and I just wanted to find out from the committee if that's something that you want to proceed forward, and I can work with Barb Young, and we would have to advertise for some green team members, or look for some suggestions on developing that green team.
Is that for volunteer?
Yes, yes. It'd be an advisory board similar to what the Sports and Recreation Advisory Board is. It'd be set up in a similar fashion like that.
that's fine. I have no problem with that.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay? Edward?
Just some follow-up from last meeting. We had a group of citizens here from Township Football and also from the Cheerleading Association. And happy to say that
I went to their meeting that they had the prior night, the night after our meeting, excuse me, and I also met with the Football Association, and we have a meeting set up with a group of individuals that are representing the concerned parents, and we're going to have a meeting here on Wednesday night in the conference room. We can talk to the Football Association about their concerns. Also, I was advised by the president, Mr. Shalcross, that he has been in talks with the cheerleading association, and from what I understand, he's pretty positive, and he said that we're going to send a leeway. So that's all I have to report.
Okay. Tony?
Just a couple things. The Peace Point ramp, I had some complaints about residents that it's falling apart. The concrete is all broken up for them. Is there anything we can do to make it safer? So if we get falling, it's underneath the board, you can see it's a lot of stuff away too.
It's actually, the concrete ramp is not, what's the problem is, at the end of the ramp, where the concrete ramp ends and the muck and the soil from the bay begins, because the trailers back off the end of it and they spin their tires when they try to get back out of it, it's created a hole there, and that's really where the issue is. Typically, every year we go down there and try to put additional rock. I am working and talking with some of the road crew on whether or not we can put some hydraulic cement in the area, but for a long-term fix, it would really take extending that ramp and getting some DEP permits and Army Corps permits to fill and excavate wetlands.
Yeah, long term, we should move into that because that's self-complaint. It's actually supposed fell last week. They were here and trying to twist the ankle. That's kind of a safety issue.
Well, the ramp itself is fine. I was actually down there last week, and the ramp itself is in good condition. It's the area off the ramp in the muck.
Was there any deposits that you're aware of that came out of Sandy or anything heard? Nothing beyond?
Nothing beyond what's normally built up. I think there is a buildup of a shoal just beyond it, just from the vehicles pushing some of the mud away from the edge of the ramp, so it's built up a little bit in that location.
And this was one of the issues that was brought up many years ago, and we had a problem with the DEP permits were more money than the actual repairs cost.
So people did come in years ago, they're paying for it to use that, whereas the structure here is to be free now, when we do it over the rednecks.
And the DEP permits back then were in the $100,000 range.
It's something that really a problem.
We are putting a new ramp in Stratford,
Yes.
but that's no longer going to be a free ramp.
It has been, the first thing Peace Point was not free, and now that's one of the things on that.
So you think that you'll be able to put some gravel or something, a rock in there that might ease the problem?
Temporarily until it sinks, because there's no supporting material underneath of it to support it, or it gets washed away from the vehicles. When they back over it, they're going to push it back further in their mud.
All right, so for a temporary fix, can we tell the boat attendant to keep an eye on that, so that, if we make a repair, we might have to go back in 4 or 5 weeks or whatever to do another, to put some more stone rock or whatever you're going to do, so that, there won't be problems with the boaters throughout the summer, and then we'll have to reassess maybe, because I think time is of the essence now, and I'm not sure, it would take too long to get a permit or anything situated anyway, so, let's do that as a temporary fix, and then assess it, maybe August into September, and where we can go from there.
Okay.
Just to add a little bit more to it, Mayor, we also had some blowout tides, and that also added to the problem. So we had more than
I
tides.
understand, it's been difficult. I understand, but however, there is a problem with this. And the other thing is that some people are complaining about not enough signs, so we have the AEDs and stuff in the fields, and now visible enough, without enough signs.
There's signs on the building, and all the coaches receive emails at the beginning of each season about where the AEDs are located.
We still know about it.
Yes. Yes.
That's all I have.
Okay? Curtis?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had a couple things. We were
was completed the other day, and 2012. At our next meeting, we're going to need to do a resolution accepting our audit. And if you go to page 63 of our audit, our auditor did an extensive job, and this year there was absolutely no findings or no corrections. So, Township's audit is 100% complete and 100% done right, so.
Very good. Barbara's to be congratulated, here to be congratulated, as well as, the staff, because this is quite impressive with all the different purchases and things that we do throughout the year. To have no findings or recommendations is very impressive. Good job.
Well, at our next meeting, we'll have a resolution accepting it, so if everybody wants to take it home and review it. And we'll have to sign something that we review it.
Okay? So Barbara, you'll make sure that's on the agenda for the next meeting.
The other thing I have is, we did an ordinance for capital improvement. Part of the ordinance is the repaving project. We're getting into the season where we should probably repave it. So I'd like to make a motion, we authorize Paul to go out and solicit bids for our paving project as we did.
Well, that would be the resolution for a subsequent meeting. You direct him to prepare the bid specs and for your perusal and a resolution for the next meeting.
Also, in that resolution, just besides the paving, we have to, some federal standard was changed a few years ago. We started upgrading our street signs. So we should probably include that into that resolution too.
Do we determine what streets we're doing?
We did, as part of the budget process, we did have a list of streets that were included in that. For the next meeting, I can prepare that list for the committees to review.
It's basically authorizing Paul to prepare bid specs, and it would be a resolution formally adopted at a future meeting. You'd have that on your agenda.
Yeah, that would be my motion. We have that on the next meeting.
He's getting bids ready, we're not approving.
Well, it's authorizing him to go out to bid, too. That's what the resolution will say, that he's at. Well, that's what he would prepare.
We prepared the resolution. We had it all before. I don't know the names of the streets off the list of streets off the names. I had it, but I probably got them in there.
It wouldn't be acted upon, Tony, until it's on an agenda. If I understand Curtis correctly, what he's saying is I'd like that presented as an agenda item for our review and or vote next meeting, I think.
And you'll put the list of streets.
Yes, I include a list of streets.
We're going to get to a point where we don't...
You know what, hold on, just for protocol, would someone like to second that?
I'll second.
Okay, go ahead.
We're at a point where we've done some reconstruction of roads with grant money. If we don't repave some of these roads, we have to make a decision, because shortly we're going to be reconstructed. And if we don't repave them, we should certainly think about whether or not we plow them. Because when we plow snow, we're actually peeling up asphalt on some of these. So if we're going to continue to plow snow, we need to pave some of these roads.
Okay, so is there there's a first and a second, is there any other discussion?
Well, again, you're going to give us some discussion on the next meeting.
I mean, you had the list of streets that I had made a recommendation from during the budget hearing in the capital month. So it's going to be that same list that you had during...
Yes, I remember this, but I'm not we will be discussing next meeting.
So, well, we're
discussing that.
the motion is to develop a resolution to make a vote for next meeting. And Paul, if you could include, the recommended streets as well, based on what the recommendation was during the budget hearings that we had.
Yes.
And just to be clear, my understanding that the resolution that will be placed on the future agenda will authorize Paul to solicit bids for the paving project for those streets.
Right.
And obviously, it will require a motion and a second and a discussion and a vote.
I mean, I can go through the list if you...
I have hard copies if somebody would like to read it.
Well, I don't know that it's necessary to go through street by street. I think if we visually had it in front of us, Curtis obviously has a copy of it. I probably have a copy of it in my bag here as well. But, just so we keep everything in line, everybody knows what we're voting on for the resolution to consider going out to bid. We have the streets identified, and then we'll take it from there.
Most of them were paid, we have one here that was paid in 79. 82, how many did they run their useful lifespan?
Okay, so,
Are we discussing now or wait for next meeting?
well, I think we're just trying to make sure we have all the details to put together the resolution.
Well, then this is the next meeting, we'll discuss it then.
Right.
These will be other appointments, okay.
Okay, so, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Anything else, Curtis?
That's all I have at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, Jay?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, a couple things. First, correct me if I'm wrong, Paul, I probably should have brought it up while you're giving that report on taking care of the dues while the birds, nesting birds are there. Wasn't there a statement or a, I won't say it's a decree, but there was something that came out of the governor's office or something in regards to repairing store damage that we need to break through some of this red tape and some of these conflicting agency reports or agency battles, interagency battles. Isn't there a way we can contact somebody and say, hey, this is ridiculous, we need to get machinery on the beach, we'll stay away from the birds, you know, let us have this opportunity to do what we have to do. Can we reach out to somebody to do that?
I mean, I'll ask again, but I did reach out to those folks and they had
Why
said...
don't, I would suggest not reaching out to the DEP, because they're going to tell you no.
It's easier to go-
I would say, let's call the governor's office and find out if we can get some relief, because, you know, listen, I understand, and I have no problem with conservation and those kind of things, but we're talking a few, you know, nesting birds and versus humans now. I mean, and you know, there's got to be some sort of level here of trying to take care of so people don't get injured, because right now it's dangerous. And you know, I'm not trying to, you know, blame you. You're not at fault. I realize there's requirements and things that need to be done, but having said that, I agree with Jay. I think something needs to be overridden here because we have a safety issue, and we need to address it before somebody does get hurt.
And the point being is this came from the governor's office after you know, hey, we need to get down and take care of this so we can get open back in the summer. So we can have these beaches ready. So whatever we need to do, let's get it done. We're not asking to tear down dunes, we're not asking to run over like the plovers. What we're asking to do is do what we normally would do when we weren't there. Although some people might want to run over.
I mean, the point is the whole area is roped off anyway. You know, no one can walk into that area without, you know, totally disregard to the signs and the ropes that surround the areas. But having said that, it's just very difficult to maneuver. And it's not just Vincent. Whittier's another one. There's 3 or 4 that are very dangerous right now. In fact, Ed, you were down at the beach over the weekend, and there's a number of people that came up to me while I was there and said, you know, we got to do something about this. And I don't disagree with that.
If this is, I mean, perhaps, Paul, I mean, if nothing is you go make a call, run under a wall, then the mayor will make the next call, and then we reach out to the state legislatures or freeholders.
I mean, if you prefer that I make the call, I'll certainly be more than willing to do it.
I'll reach out to the governor's office and...
Okay.
Yeah, Jeff mentioned the Senate get involved.
Okay.
It's a safety issue.
Next thing I have is a request from Chief Potter for us to potentially pass a resolution regarding to support House of Representatives bill. This is a federal bill that would promote patient-centered, high-quality, efficient field EMS, strengthen the field EMS at the federal, state, and local levels. What this will do, in synopsis, I called Chief Potter today and wanted to ask him, you know, what the consequences of it were, and I just want to make sure there wasn't any cost problem, you know, not necessarily the federal government, but especially with us and the local and state government. And this has nothing to do with that. It has to do with recognizing EMS as a separate field in emergency services. Right now, the scope of the federal mindset is that there's only 2 responding agencies, first responding agencies, and that's fire and police. And integrated within them would be EMS. EMS is requesting to come out with a separate entity, which they are in a lot of places across the country. And he is asking us through the Chief Potter, asking us through the North American National Association of Emergency Medical Technicians. They all want to get out. Yeah, they all want to get out. To support HR 809. So I would like us to do that too. I would like to ask Dan to look at this request to make sure that, it's going to be approved to us and
So I understand the request, maybe I can get some direction from the committee. If it results in no cost to the township but supports EMS services generally, as I understand it, there may be an issue with voluntary contributions that it makes it more easier. Do you want a resolution or just report back to you at the next meeting?
I would think if it fits all our criteria, if the consensus of the committee is that, we can go ahead.
If there aren't any identifiable issues, I'll prepare a resolution for consideration at a future meeting.
And you'll compare state statute or rules to this to make sure that we're not in conflict with any state rules?
Yes, I don't think it will be in conflict with state. I think it's really exposure to township cost is the biggest thing, and whether there's any downside to supporting this program.
Okay.
So,
So is that a motion?
Yes, yes.
Would someone like to second that? Any other discussion? Would you call the roll, please, Barbara?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Also, our big annual 4th of July celebration fireworks are coming up, and coming up obviously on the 4th of July, in case anybody missed it. And everybody forgets the date. We'll have them at Amanda's Field at dusk once again, and one of the things that we did last year in cooperation with the state police is set up some no parking areas along Route 50, because once again, we do not want anybody parking on Route 50, walking down Route 50 to Amanda's Field. There are an extremely large number of parking spots in Amanda's Field. Amanda's Field empties out within 15 minutes, 20 minutes after the fireworks are over with. So there's no reason to go and park your car on Route 50 down Perry Road, walk 15 minutes to Mansfield, walk back and then leave. It's not only a safety issue, but it is also it doesn't make any sense. We'd like to have everybody in Mansfield and park and ready to go. And it's very, very easy to do. We did last year with some success. We didn't have too much parking. We actually had people last year even parking further down, away from the no parking zone, which just didn't make any sense at all. But we don't want you walking up Route 50. Route 50 is not being closed. So I do not remember, that's a state road. So
it's a state highway. We do have a local ordinance that addresses these type of things, and I think, if my memory serves me correctly, because it was a state highway, the state police actually can take action, and I believe we prepared the signs last year, so we have to coordinate with the Woodbine Barracks to make sure that the proper preliminaries are taken care of, and then we get the signs up. So I can,
and that also,
the clerk's office and Paul's office, we can take care of it.
And no parking also extended on portions of Perry Road, either side of Route 50, just to keep people from parking on the first stretches of Perry Road.
So Perry Road may require some action on our part, but the state police I think they had the jurisdiction.
I think they have the jurisdiction both over state highway and municipal roads to make that that call.
A temporary emergency no parking.
Yeah, I think there's some type of correspondence they have to kick in, and then I think we produce the signage.
I called out to the barracks today and suggest the station commander was not in. I suggested that I was talking to the trooper there and suggested that we might go a little further to Sherwood to 610 potentially, just to make it smart.
It's not going to affect any residents, because nobody parks on the street anyhow.
Route 50 anyway. That's all I have.
Okay, and just to kind of tack on your discussion about July 4th, we did receive invitation again for the committee to take part in the July 4th parade over in Strathmere. I think it was 10:30 the parade starts. Followed by awards and some hot dogs and soda at the Deauville Inn. So we'll add that to the discussion as well, and as usual, we'll figure out who on the committee is going to be able to make it. And Curtis, if you'd be so kind to volunteer your truck again, that would be a big help.
Volunteer your truck again, it's more than the matter.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that's the first thing. Secondly, we had our lifeguard tryouts over the weekend. As cold as the water was, there were, I believe, almost 13 applicants that tried out in the cold water. And anyway, we have 5 of the guards identified at this point. Carly Cox is actually a returning guard. 4th year, she took a year off. Mary Ellen Curran requalified. She's been on the guards for at least 5 years, and she took a year off. Anson Hadley is a new rookie. Kevin Gill is a new rookie. And Xavier DeSalis is a new rookie. So those 5 I'd like to make a motion to hire, but I'd also ask some latitude. It appears we may need one additional. And so we may either hold another tryout. There's some other, the other individuals that tried out are kind of on the border, but we've gotten some recent information from some of our returning guards that some were able to take on some positions that have graduated from college. So I'd like to make a motion that we hire these 5 individuals and allow me a latitude if there's a tryout next Saturday to hire that person as well, so that we can stay consistent with the rookie training that's supposed to start prior to us having our next meeting. So I'd like to have them all done at the same time. We won't hire the person unless we absolutely need to fill in a slot. So that's my motion. Okay. Any other discussion on that? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
I've also received a resignation from one of our zoning board volunteers, and so we'll have a vacancy on the zoning board. So now that we're filming this, for anyone that's interested, please submit a letter of intent and a resume to the clerk's office. And Barbara, I'd also ask that you advertise it as we've done in the past for an opening, so that when we get the applicants, the committee can review those and make a recommendation to replace someone on the zoning board. So, and Paul, I would say let's even put something on Channel 2 and add something on the website if possible. Thank you. The other good news is we received from Congressman Lobiondo's office the fact that we have not only been approved, but it appears we're very confident that the funding for beach replenishment going forward from the Great Egg Harbor Inlet to the Townsend's Inlet, which obviously includes Strathmere, the south end of Ocean City, or much of Ocean City, and as well as Sea Isle. The 3 mayors, Mayor Gillian, Mayor Desiderio, and myself, about 3 months ago, wrote a letter requesting, and actually went to the President and went to some other funding to the Army Corps, requesting that our project be included in future funding for the Army Corps of Engineers, and it's been approved. We don't know exactly when the funding will come in for us to anticipate being able to have that beach replenishment start up, but it appears it'll probably be sometime either in the beginning of the winter through early 2014. So that's significant news for us, because the funding from the Army Corps significantly reduces the allotment that the township would be responsible for beach replenishment. It also ensures a beach replenishment program for many years to come, and to be included in that is a great opportunity for this township, and ultimately a great financial savings to help protect the infrastructure over in Strathmere. So that was incredible news. And there's a resolution later on about some easements that we have to try and take care of, a little different than what the state is looking for. But to make a long story short, this has been an ongoing challenge for us, I guess is the word, for the past, 7 or 8 years. We've been trying to get on this. It's been approved, but it's never been funded. Now it's officially funded. So that's fantastic news for the township. And we're not sure, but it may even include total funding where there wouldn't be any responsibility for the township, which in itself, as it is, we only are responsible for 25% of the 35% that goes with a partnership with the state compared to what we're doing now with the state. So significant savings, and we'll be able to ensure that ongoing beach replenishment will be ongoing for many years to come. So great news. I think that's all I have, so if we could move on to the resolutions, Barbara.
Okay. First resolution, renewal of alcoholic consumption licenses for the license year commencing July 1st, 2013.
I'll move the resolution. Second.
And I will only go to you, Barbara, and say those that are on this list have completed everything that's required by the state?
Yes.
No issues that you're aware of?
No, sir.
Okay, so we have a first and a second. Would you like to call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
I need to abstain, my daughter works at Lindy's establishment.
Okay. And that establishment is a Deauville Inn, just for the record.
Okay.
Go ahead, Barbara.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried. Mr. Corson abstains. Item number 4, authorizing the award of a contract with Wireless Electronics Incorporated.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Dan, would you give us an update on this?
This was requested by Barb Spiegel primarily because and I'm not entirely sure, I'll defer perhaps to either Chief Potter or Mr. Newman, what the actual purchase was for. But because it was $14,000, I guess it's portable radios and antennas, although that could have been purchased by the purchasing agent without coming to the committee, under our rules and also under the pay-to-pay laws, because you aggregate, it's over $17,500. They had to have filings with our office, the clerk's office, and the state, indicating that they did not donate to any campaigns or anything of that nature. And Barbara and I felt it was appropriate that the Township Committee authorized the purchase as well.
This is money that was included in the bond resolution to purchase radios, bond for the purchase radios for public works.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have any questions?
And it does comply with our ordinances in that this person did not contribute politically.
Okay. Barbara, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried. Item number 5, authorizing the extension of a shared services agreement with the Borough of Woodbine and the Township of Dennis for the sharing of a radar-equipped vehicle for an additional term of 1 year commencing July 1st, 2013 to June 30th, 2014.
I'll move the resolution. Second.
Okay, and this is an ongoing shared service agreement that we've had for a number of years. It looks like it's all the way back to 1999, so would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried. Item number 6, appointment of Capehart and Scatchart, PA, and Joseph F. Bentley, Esquire, to act as special legal counsel in employment and labor law matters.
Move the resolution.
Second.
Okay, and again, this is a contract that we've had an ongoing litigation, and this is just a renewal of that contract. So if there isn't any other discussion, call the roll, please.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried. Item number 7, appointing the 2013 season beach patrol personnel.
I'll move that resolution. And this is just memorializing the returnees that weren't included in the original resolution that we had passed, I guess, 3 or 4 meetings ago. So, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried. Item number 8, adoption of operating manual for the program to provide affordability assistance to homeowners.
I'll move the resolution for discussion.
Second.
And Paul, this is what we had talked about at the last meeting where...
Correct. This is for affordable assistance for homeowners, that if they're in the arrears with their mortgage, if they're in an affordable house, that that we could spend some of our Affordable Housing Trust Fund money, which we're required to spend on affordability assistance, that would be geared towards them.
And there'll be criteria to make sure that someone is eligible for these funds, correct?
Correct. Once COA approves the manual, we'll have to hire a administrative agent that would certify the occupants of the home as income eligible, and then then we'd look at the criteria of whether they meet the program or not regarding income eligibility, as well as deed restricting the properties for affordable housing.
Okay.
And just to reiterate, this is not through township funds, it's rather through fees collected from development and developers throughout the township.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried. Item number 9, appointing James Heilman as a part-time seasonal employee to the Upper Township Public Works Department.
Move the resolution. Second.
Okay. This memorializes our last, from our last meeting. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried. Item number 10, authorizing the mayor to execute a deed of dedication and perpetual storm damage reduction easement on behalf of the Township of Upper with respect to Block 801, Lots 1, 2, and 5.01, owned by the Township of Upper for the Great Egg Harbor Inlet to Townsend's Inlet, New Jersey Beach Replenishment Project.
Okay, now, Paul, just so I understand this, do we need to make a motion before we discuss it? I'll make a motion to. This is, the Army Corps, because of this new funding that's become available to us, requires more extensive easements than what we had in place from the New Jersey DEP?
Correct. Our normal municipal beach fill project was I'll say a smaller beach fill from what the Army Corps project was. And when you look at the project limits, there were a couple lots. There's a portion of the 3 township-owned lots, and then there's actually one portion of a privately owned lot that we're currently negotiating with that we have to obtain easements for because the Army Corps project is larger than what we did as a municipal project. So
Now, these are in Whale Beach?
these 3 are right in Whale Beach, right at the right bordering the last house that's on the east side of Commonwealth Avenue.
Right. Now, I understand, and we'll go ahead and make the motion and vote on this, but then, how does this isn't affected by that high tide thing?
No, these are essentially under dune. It's really only 20 or 30 feet on each of these lots. To look at it visually, if our most recent projects were this wide, the Army Corps is a little wider. So it covers a little more land that was not covered because the lot lines didn't line up, and that's why we're doing these easements. Right, and for example, the private one that we're looking at, I think it's 10 or 15 feet wide in front of, for about 20 feet in front of his house. But all to the east of that is all dune and sand. You got to go 300 feet to get to the ocean. But the Army Corps template covers a little bit of this guy's lot, so we've got to get this person to say, yes, we would like to let you put a little bit of your dune on my lot.
Right. But the last
I
2
don't
beach
think
fill,
anyone's going to be worried about putting sand in front of their house after what happened
On that-
during Sandy.
on that private property, the last beach fills, we were probably 150 feet from where the Army Corps
Yes.
ultimately wants to go to.
None of these issues would ever stop a project.
Correct.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
And on a positive note, I probably should have brought this out when I was speaking a couple minutes ago. The beaches look great. We really have weathered the storm well with the amount of beach compared to other towns. So, from really the south end all the way around to the inlet section, there's a significant amount of beach that still exists there, or sand. And, that's good because we still need to get through. Hopefully, we won't have any storms to get through this summer, but I think we're in pretty good shape, so good job with that.
Yeah, I think the worst spot is really in Whale Beach where you can see the groins exposed, and especially the stone groins that are underneath, in the tidal zone. That's probably the only real notice that you can see besides the Corson's Inlet State Park area, the natural area that,
Right.
you know, it doesn't have that lobe of sand out on the point.
Okay, that's good. Go ahead, Barbara.
Okay. Item number 11, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 8, 2013, an ordinance amending revised general ordinance, Chapter 7 of the Code of Upper Township, and this is to provide parking by permit only in designated residential areas.
I'd like to make a motion that we introduce ordinance number 8 of 2013 with a public hearing and final adoption scheduled for the July 8th meeting. Is that-
No, I think we're going to try and get it, is this the one we're going to try and get done before?
We do the
Because
24th.
we don't want to have a parking problem as they start to do more work on the bridge. We're going to try and do it at the second meeting, I believe.
I don't think, I mean, I think if you wanted to, whatever Barb needs for advertising, I don't
We
think,
can push it.
We're going to go for the second meeting.
yeah.
And I know that's a little unusual, but we just really, especially with summer coming, we didn't want them to have a problem with parking on that
To
street.
refresh your members, this is the ordinance requested for parking under on Harbor Road during the construction.
This is to help the residents where you can only park by permit. The residents don't have to pay a fee, but the municipal clerk will issue the permits both on an annual basis for the 5 visitors per house and all the people that live in the house, and then unlimited for 24 hours if they're having an event. Frankly, it's to keep the contractors and their employees off that street and parking on that street for both safety and convenience of the residents.
Okay. And I'll second that, just to make a note that there will be public comment allowed at that June 24th meeting. At this time, there will not be any public comment taken on this particular ordinance introduction. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried. Item number 12, introduction and first reading of ordinance number 9, 2013, an ordinance vacating a portion of Jasper Avenue between Commonwealth Avenue and Bayview Drive within the Township of Upper, County of Cape May, and State of New Jersey.
I'll move the introduction of ordinance number 9, 2013, and we'll do it on the 24th, or we'll do this at the...
It's up to Barb. That one you can go July, right?
Yes.
Which
We
one?
have that one in July.
July. Public hearing and final adoption for the July 8th.
Second.
Okay, and again, there will be no public comment accepted, but at the July 8th meeting, there will be public comment that will be asked, and if you have, would like to contribute to the Township Committee, that would be the time to do it. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried. Item number 13, Upper Township School District Summer Project Request.
I guess the last few years, we've partnered with the school doing these projects. I'd like to make a motion, we authorize the road department to go ahead and do this.
Second.
This is what we talked about last meeting.
Yes.
What is it they requesting?
They're requesting installation of a VCT tile in the 4th and 5th grade classrooms at the elementary school. They're asking for installation and relocation of some playgrounds at the primary school. We also have to complete some projects that we didn't finish as part of the bus depot from last year. There's another handicap ramp that we have to install at the primary school, as well as some drainage off to the side of one of the playgrounds that we did not complete last year.
For the record, I have no problem whatsoever in doing this work for the, improving this work for the school. My problem is that for years and years and years, they were given money to build projects such as this and other repairs, and the money was not used for that intended use. That's what I have a problem with.
Well,
That's the last time.
The money we gave to school years and years ago was not given to them for projects or anything. Once we gave them money, it was their money. We could not dictate to them or had no input on whatever, what they did with it. That's state statute. We can't give money with strings attached. We give money, it's a gift.
Well, the money,
Then we stopped giving it.
the money was actually used as a sort of an indirect tax relief
It says taxpayers' money.
But-
We do the work that's cheaper for us to do. We save money. The school system saves money. I understand all that. But what they did with the money was saved. They didn't use it, they had intended to use it.
Well,
Well, there was no, it was given to them with no strings attached. We did not tell them what to do with the money. Tony.
No, but you didn't have to give it to them year after year.
You're right, we didn't have to, we did not have to give our residents tax relief. You're right, we didn't have to do it.
So now you're coming in and asking for money or more for us to do for them and save the money, where are they going to do the money?
well, they, at the presentation last meeting, they presented that they're making a lot of improvements and taking care of a lot of things that need to be addressed. The reality is these things need to be addressed, whether it was taken care of in the past or whether it was taken care of for whatever reason it wasn't taken care of. But we still have students in these classes. They still need to have the repairs done. And the reality is we have a staff that we have, if we can afford to use the staff at times that it doesn't in any way have any detriment to the services that we have to offer to our residents based on our responsibilities, that I'd like to see some of these repairs taking place.
These projects were not budgeted, they were not, the school is spending $0 on this, because they weren't budgeted. I mean, we're sitting here, we're doing.
So they give it to us, they want us to spend the money. Go, you get upset.
I'd like to say something without being interrupted in one meeting. Give me 1 meeting.
Hold on. Go ahead, Curtis.
This money was not budgeted. This is unbudgeted items. If we don't do these projects, they will have to budget them next year. They will have to put them out for bid, and they will pay prevailing rate a lot more money than our employees doing. This is a direct savings to our residents, our children, and our community.
And I don't have a problem with that. The problem again is this exists with the fact that they spend the money on different things. We save the money, they spend on something else.
Well, if you want to tell the school board what to spend their money on, apply for the school board.
I'm not going to run the school board, I'm the Township committee. I like for the people of Township.
And our job is not.
They do the job that they sent me here to do. I'm not going to interrupt you.
Well, there's no...
For years and years and years, your own words, you give the school money, millions and millions of dollars. Where did it go?
Well, the reality is
The surplus is gone, the reality is the surplus is gone because of your words again. It went to the schools. What did they do with the money?
They utilized it for their expenses.
What expense? It was given to them for repairs.
Well, first of all,
By their own knowledge, it was supposed to be for repairs, which it has not been used for that. The schools were such that this year, they were ready to fall down on the kids.
listen, hold
It
on.
was never given to them for repairs.
Hold on 1 second. We can argue this until we're blue in the face, but the reality is there's a request to do this now. And we were successful in helping them last year. We were successful in projects the summer before that. And the reality is the improvements that we're making are improvements for our residents because the students are our residents as well. And so right now, we need to make a motion and we either accept or deny the request for, what's being asked for the Township Committee. What's happened in the past has happened in the past. And hold on, okay? And the issue with budgeting is not the authority of this Township Committee. The issue of budgeting and how things are spent is the authority of the school board, of which we have no authority to tell them how to spend things. All we're doing here is we have a request to tile the 4th and 5th grade classrooms, and it's my understanding that the flooring needs to be replaced and move some equipment, and it's something that, according to Mr. Dietrich and according to other folks in the public works, the supervisors, this is something that our carpenters and some of our staff can take care of in between some of their other responsibilities. So the question is, would someone like to make a motion to approve this or deny? We have a motion, we have a second.
Fine.
So take the vote, please.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes, by all means, I support clean, safe schools for our children.
I have the past years, and this will be.
Wait till you're
Mr.
called.
Ansara?
No.
Okay, Mr. Ansara objects. Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion is carried with Mr. Ansara objecting.
Okay.
Voting no. Okay, item number 14 has been removed from the agenda. Item number 15, Boy Scout Troop 95 requests use of Amanda's Field on July 4th for an overnight camping event.
I'll move we allow the request.
Second.
And I'll just add that there's no fires allowed, but, you know, I think they did this last year,
They
right?
did this last
Yes,
year.
and that's part of their...
Yeah, I think it's a great thing. Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Colombo?
Yes.
Motion carried. Item number 16, Upper Township Baseball Association requests use of Amanda's Field on June 22nd, July 6th, and July 20th, 2013 for a family drive-in movie night fundraising events.
I'll move that we allow that request.
Second?
And this is to have, what, movie nights at the right, at Amanda's Field?
Yes.
Obviously, they're going to comply with our use of facilities ordinance and those
Yes.
requirements.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Colombo?
Yes.
Motion carried. Item number 17, possible sale of cell tower lease areas and easements.
Is it, that's not closed session, is it?
No, this is basically a request as to whether or not the township wants to move forward with the sale. We have two cell towers, one at Public Works and the other at the Rescue Squad. And a lot of municipalities, and we touched on this some time ago, a lot of municipalities are selling the rights to those cell towers even when they're under existing leases. And if we're going to do that, we may want to move forward based on a timetable on some of those leases that are about to expire or be renewed. We do have a closed session item on a specific lease that requires township action, that requires confidentiality before you take the action. So that's why you'll see that on the closed session agenda. But this is really to direct Paul, with the assistance of Barb and myself, to produce bid specs. And what they do is you sell the rights for, let's say, 30 years to the cell tower, and you get a lump sum capital payment, plus you can also request, and I think Paul and I are recommending it, a portion of the income over that 30-year period. It obviously depends upon the companies that come in to bid on these towers, but the average tower that we saw in some of the other towns that have done it that are similarly situated to the township is $300,000 or $400,000 per tower. And then you get a portion of the suggestion that we're having is 25% of the subcontracts on the tower, which could be a few $1,000s a month in addition.
When the technology, the way it's changing day to day, I mean, we might, in 30 years, these towers are going to be obsolete.
Well, we don't know that. Obviously, you don't want your contractors to think that because the price will go down.
So I mean, we might be better off taking the money now.
Well, the point is Dan and I have had some discussion about this. There's some significant opportunities out there. And, you know, if we can leverage that and use it towards some of the projects that we've discussed, or used it, you know, to offset any kind of future tax increase, even for next year, I mean, it's a significant amount of money that would benefit the township. And not only that, as Dan said, we can still realize potentially monthly additional monies as well.
Now, obviously, if you ask for monthly income in addition, your upfront payment is lower.
Right.
Now, I will tell you that it's not unusual, Barbara can attest to this, every few months we'll get a request from another company that wants to purchase these cell towers under these type of terms. So there's a significant market out there. We suspect that there will be a fair amount of bids.
I would also request that any thing that we have anything to do with, that we allow public safety
Yes.
access to those towers
That-
free of charge.
So that would be included in the bids.
That's written right in there in bold.
Okay.
What we need, if you want to go forward on that 25% income stream type situation, I think we need to give, as a committee, direction to our purchasing department and Public Works Superintendent to prepare the specs and prepare a resolution for authorizing you to go to bid.
Do we have a list of what we're utilizing on the towers? I mean, I know it may change because of technologies as we move along in advance, what we have, you know, that we utilize, but I would think that someone that's potentially, you know, maybe looking at this would want to know what we're asking and what we have on there. So if we could get together some kind of list, and by the way, I'm staring at Jay Potter, chief of our rescue squad, if we could do that, I think that would, help this whole process.
Also, is there any way, again, we can put out, can we bid it with 100% price sold and with the income, of course, so we can compare apples with apples?
It'd be a little more difficult because then you'd have to do some type of present value analysis that might be subjective. So how would you determine which was the best bid? And you could have an issue. I think you have to either go one way or the other. What Paul and I are suggesting and what other towns have done and gotten significant upfront lump sum payments is getting a portion of both. It's kind of hedging your bets. You obviously will get a larger upfront payment if you don't want any of the income stream.
Okay, so do we need to make any action?
Well, I need to know, you need to tell Paul and I to go do work and put it on the agenda for the second
So do
meeting
you
in
want a
June.
motion to that effect?
Yes.
Okay, something like,
Make that in form of a motion.
okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Would someone like to make a motion to pay the bills?
I hereby move that all claims submitted for payment at this meeting be approved and then incorporated in full in the minutes of this meeting.
Second, call the roll, please.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
There are a number of municipal department reports: construction code, clerk's office, animal control, tax collector, and finance office. They will be available upon request of the clerk's office tomorrow morning, but at this time I'd like to make a motion to accept the reports. I need a second.
Second.
Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Ansara?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mayor Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, at this time, we've reached the public comment portion, and if anyone would like to address the Township Committee, I'd ask that you come up, state your name and your address.
Thank you, Christy Chisholm, 18 Evergreen. Mr. Ansara, I'm not here to speak about the school, but just to give you a little background. Because the other times I've come up to speak in front of these gentlemen was because of school-related budget issues. And I will go toe-to-toe with Mr. Palmieri any day over how the money is spent. It is unfortunate, however, our district lost hundreds of thousands of dollars when Governor Christie came in, and what was left in surplus, and there was a plan for that surplus, was taken back from them. And trust me, I understand your anger and your dismay of some of how things have been done. I'm there with you. I teach in Millville, the same nonsense is going on. So I get it. But just, I don't know if you knew that. So, for your knowledge. My concern is cheerleading and football. As the president of the Cheerleading Association, I contacted Mr. Barr on February 28th with regards to expressing some concerns. Your assessment and my assessment, the assessment of other people, we tend to differ a little. To say the Township has made significant efforts to work with the concerned parents and cheer, it's kind of a stretch. He did call me after he had a coach promised me he was going to call me. The coach wanted to know if he called. I said, no, hasn't called. 2.5 hours later, I finally got a call. I'm busy, but what do you need? Hey, Tom, how are you? I said, we need to sit down, we need to meet, there are things we need to discuss. I don't really have time, there's too many other things going on. Apparently you need shelves or you need a room or something. Well, yeah, we do. We need a place to store our things. But we really need to sit down and have a discussion about things. Well, right now I can't deal with that. There's too many parents and other things to deal with. And I said, well, how about if I put it in an email? I don't deal with email. Awesome. Well, how else can I communicate with you? Phone's the only way, so way to go. Christy, you know how. And he and I are friends, but on this issue, it comes down to some gender inequality. And when I go back and I look and see if there's precedent in court sanctions against programs and municipalities and whether or not this inequality exists and whether or not we fall under Title IX, from what I can find, we do. And right now, he's not willing to work with us or with the concerned parents, because as of 3 o'clock this afternoon, that meeting that's happening Wednesday wasn't happening.
I beg to differ with you. I don't know where you're getting your information. However, we did set up a meeting tentatively for Wednesday.
And as of yesterday, it wasn't happening.
No, it was prior to that we finally nailed it down that it was going to be held on Wednesday, this Wednesday. And it had nothing to do with cheerleading. It has to do with-
Okay, I understand that, but I also have, the other 4 members of my board are football parents. I'm the only non.
The only gentleman who I've been communicating with is Mr. Fisher.
Okay.
He's representing the parents that want to talk to the football board. That's the gentleman I've been talking to all along, and we have been talking about Wednesday, and we have a meeting all set for Wednesday. And as for the cheerleaders, it was brought to my attention that they offered you the ice room for storage,
Coach's closet,
and that
which I don't even know what that looks like.
it's the old ice room. I mean, it's a considerably nice sized room, and also that the varsity players are going to pay it for you. That's what I was told.
That was never, that, first I heard about painting.
And if you would like, I'll broker another meeting with you and with Tom, if that's what it's going to take.
There needs to be a sit-down. It's not going to work.
That's no problem. We can, we're doing more football on Wednesday
I left
night,
it there.
and we'll take care of it with the cheerleaders.
But-
in another meeting.
And just for the record, the Township Committee certainly supports all efforts for equal equality for both girls and
I
boys.
only bring it up because
So-
it's been so aggravating. And I'm the parent of 2 girls, and, you know, I've grown up participating in things that girls don't normally participate in. So when it comes to their girls not getting a fair shake, then I'm going to get a little upset. And I try to be calm, especially like when Mr. Meehan said at the meeting on April 25th that they permitted us to sell our goods. Nobody permits me to do anything unless I've asked for permission. It's public property.
I agree.
So,
But I just want you to know that we've gone so far as to ensure that girls can participate in boy stuff, okay? So we're on the other end. We're in total agreement with you, so.
There's something else though there to be clarified, that it's not the township who is preventing this from happening. Right? We're helping to facilitate this.
and I appreciate that. It's just frustrating. And I haven't talked to Dennis. I was told on my way home from work today that the meeting was off. After an IEP meeting this afternoon, I was then told the meeting was now on. So sometime between 2:30 and 4:45, that communication was received to say that that meeting is going to happen.
Well, I have to tell you that you were misinformed.
Okay.
Because I've been in contact with Mr. Fisher for the last 2 weeks, and we have a meeting set for Wednesday night.
And you,
I'm sorry, I don't know where you're getting your
Okay.
information from, but according to Dennis and I, conversations I've had, and also with...
and it
Mr.
wasn't
Meehan,
that it was canceled because Bob Nathan wasn't able to make it.
that was not the case.
Because I believe I read a text where you put that in writing, that the meeting couldn't happen because Bob Nathan couldn't.
Well, because Bob Nathan was juggling a schedule, and I said that could possibly be an issue, but it's not an issue. So we're going to have to...
I just, it's unfortunate that it's had to come to this. You said to us on May 29th the meeting would happen. I really, truly hope this meeting does happen on
It will
Wednesday.
happen.
We as a community need to be able to have this move forward. The item on the agenda this evening for baseball, for the fundraising, for the movie night, they are things that we've brought, we the cheerleading committee have brought to the football individuals on their board in attempts of having community night. Now, and I know because also working with soccer, we try not to do the same things that other groups do because we don't want to infringe on their ability to fundraise. You've now got 200 plus families who could have participated and brought the community together because of an individual or a group's inability to, or willingness, lack of willingness to work with someone else. There's going to be a loss of that sense of community. And by the 25th of July, I mean, according to Tom, sitting down is not going to happen. They are too busy. So I don't know where the direction's going to be when we come on that Thursday evening to say, here's what's happened, because just phone calls isn't going to make it. These groups need to work together. Right now, there are not enough kids signed up, to my knowledge, for the 2 middle teams. And we're getting parents saying to us, well, if there aren't enough kids, who are our kids going to cheer for? And you said on the 29th that that meeting was not a cheerleading issue. If there's no football, there's no cheer. So now I've got girls that are 5 to 14 with nothing to do after school. Our after-school programs are what keeps our kids out of trouble. It gives them a safe environment for participation and just camaraderie that kids need. Again, I teach in Milton. I know what my kids are doing after school, and my children aren't going to be doing what those kids are doing. I mean, I encourage all my kids. I'm like, oh, listen, I can stay till 3:30. I have to get kids off bus at 4. I can get home, get them off the bus. Stay here. We need to make sure that this works. When you're looking at that number of kids being affected by the lack of someone's willingness to communicate with others, we're looking at the detriment of our future. There are programs for the kids before 6th grade for schools. We're ready.
Thank you.
Good evening, all. I told my wife I'll be late. My name is Vince Adams.
We just need your address, please.
Address?
Yeah,
219 Laurel Drive.
thanks.
Mr. Barr is correct. We have a meeting Wednesday. I'd like to thank you for setting that up. Just a little confused. One question. I'm here for football and cheer. My question, Mr. Barr, is who, I guess, contacted you first, football or cheer?
Excuse me?
This year, who contacted you with a problem first, football or cheer?
I believe it was the cheerleaders when they came to one of our meetings.
Okay. With that being said, how come the president, one, how come we don't have a meeting for cheer yet, unless that's what we're doing on Wednesday? And if that is what we're doing on Wednesday, why is the only contact that you're having with Dennis Fisher and not the president of the cheerleading association? She has no idea what's going on. You're making a statement that you are only in contact with Dennis Fisher. That's for football. Maybe I'm wrong, and I apologize if I'm wrong. But I believe there needs to be more communication with the cheerleading association so they can do whatever they need to do. Whether it's an appointment with Tom, whether it's an appointment with Tom and you, whether it's with us on Wednesday. That's it.
And as you recall from the Sports Association meeting that we had on the advisory board, it was brought to our attention that night. And what was my direction? Or what was the board's direction? The direction was for cheerleading to get in touch with football and to talk about this. Well, what I was being back briefed on by Mr. Shawcross, there has been some talks. Obviously, there's a difference in opinion here, and I'll address that with Mr. Shawcross.
Well, if you're working with Mr. Fisher on one side and Mr. Shellcross on the other side for football, why aren't you working with Mr. Shellcross on one side
and the president of the cheerleading association on the other side for cheer.
Yeah, we're trying to do that because there's just so many, you gotta understand, there's too many different people that are involved in this, and, we're trying to handle one situation.
I understand, but I'm just supporting the young lady that was just up here.
Oh, I know you are.
And I know what you're doing for football, and again, thank you. I just like to see it for cheer as well.
Oh, they're getting just as much attention,
Is that true, ladies?
and we're gonna take care of that.
It can't be true. So, if you have your opinion, we have ours. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Anyone else?
Good evening. My name is Susan Morgan, and I was
And I need your address, please.
1986 Tuckahoe Road, Petersburg, New Jersey.
Thank you.
I was a cheerleading director for 18 years. Started girls softball in this township. Excuse my speech impediment, I had some surgery today. Started girls softball in this township and started the Upper Township Cheerleading Association in this township and did it for 18 years. Very, very, very successfully. I am just brokenhearted to see what has happened to this organization. And what's wrong, I can tell you guys right now, this should not be happening. Where is your recreation committee? Whose ever idea that was the worst idea I've ever heard of. Get rid of the recreation director and get rid of the recreation committee. When I came onto the recreation committee, there was 4 old men on it. They could barely breathe. They used to fall asleep during the meeting. They were in sports a million years ago. That was the recreation committee. And then Cookie Shaw was the recreation director, I believe, unpaid at the time. And then she said, hey, let's get the actual people who are running the sports to come in here and be on this committee. Right, Obi? So in came Susan Morgan, Obi Young, all those guys. They were actually running the sports. How unique was that? So here we all are, recreation committee, we met whatever Thursday of the month. Whoever ran that sport was there. And this never had to happen. Nobody has come and bother you gentlemen.
Well, actually, it happens many times with the record that you're not aware of that.
Not many times.
Well, I would argue with that, but you're wrong on that.
When?
Because we've had a number of issues over the years. A number of issues. I'm just,
When I was involved,
well,
all right, maybe the past 10
okay.
years or so, but when I was involved, it really didn't happen.
The last 5 years in the recreation committee, it was basically falling apart.
Okay, well, I don't know about that. I'm talking
The
about,
wheels come off the wagon.
okay, well, when I was involved,
and understand that there was also, in the interim, there's also a lot of state statute requirements that came in for reporting, nonprofit organizations, nonprofit divisions. So there had to be a way to ensure that each club or association, whether it was soccer, whether it was basketball, cheerleading, whatever, had to report, had to file the necessary paperwork that needed to be put to the Attorney General's office. There were a lot of things that were put in place that, quite frankly, was laxed and it needed to be addressed. So the way of addressing it is that a lot of the sports were put into a kind of a club unit where they would be responsible for their fundraising and the reporting that was part of it. Right. And an advisory committee would channel up through that. So they've had several meetings. They meet probably every other month. And there's a number of people that are on that advisory committee that were involved with a number of the sports over the years when their kids were on it. And part of the requirement for the advisory board is that they don't have someone in sports so that they could make no determination based on my son's in football and I'll do this, or my daughter's in this. So no, but I mean they've had a lot of experience. I'm saying that these are people.
What I'm saying is these people didn't even have. I didn't have a shop in it for many years.
No, well, that wasn't the requirement.
It's the loving. No, it's the loving sport.
I don't argue with that. That's the best thing about. That's the best thing about this township.
Right.
There are an incredible amount of parents, both fathers and mothers, that donate an unbelievable amount of their time, and that's that's the greatest part of what this community is all
I remember
about.
my daughter was 9 and she finished T-ball, and I said, okay, where does she go now? And they said, oh, she has to boys baseball, and I'm like, I don't think so. Where's the girls? Do you want to make girls softball? Go ahead. And I said, okay, and I started girls softball, and everybody was wonderful. The equipment came, I started it with 4 teams, and it's, I guess, still going today. But we always had wonderful. We never returned, I never knew to be turned down for anything to this township that we had to work. But we went through the rec committee. I had been talking to the cheerleading last year and the year before. People approached me about helping out with cheerleading, and I said, no, thank you. Now, last year, Deanna Miranda approached me, and I said I would do like a mentoring thing with her, and I had been doing some behind-the-scenes things. I'm appalled at what I see. I'm like, what happened to the rec committee? What happened to the rec committee?
I mean, 10, 12 years ago, too, money wasn't an object. I mean, we had extensive resources, we had extensive surplus. It's all...
Well, I think it's fine that they earn their own money. I don't think you should be throwing money at them, but there should be a committee that somebody knows what the heck somebody's doing.
Well, let me just say this, because maybe this is good for people to understand, okay? The recreation supervisor that was in place before was responsible for ensuring that the fields were cut and maintained and lined. Well, that's still being done because that whole department went under Public Works. And the one thing we don't get complaints about is our fields. Everyone compliments the job that our employees do. So that is taken care of, okay? The second, another part of it was the scheduling of who could get to use the fields, the facilities, and those kind of things. We had some bumps originally, along the way, I'd admit that. But now that it's moved to the township clerk's office, there's a number of people working on it. There are people that are cross-trained. So that issue, I believe, has been addressed because we haven't had any issues of that of late, okay? So the only other issue that the rec supervisor used to take care of was giving out the uniforms, okay? Now that hasn't been rectified except for that's now being done by the individual sports. So, part of the reason...
When you had an issue,
I understand. Okay.
Fixed it before it got to the
Okay, but, there's also, Curtis, can I finish my train of thought here, okay? There's a number of reasons why this was looked at. Part of it is that we felt that the fields could still be maintained with the highest standard and quality that they were before. And in fact, over the past 3 years, okay, between salaries and between operating expenses, we have saved the township $415,000, okay? And part of our responsibility, besides offering recreation programs, is to ensure that we keep our taxes down. We've worked very hard to do that. And we don't want to shortchange anybody. We don't want to reduce any of the services that we offer. But part of our responsibility is to do it in a way and do it in a frugal way and be good stewards of the funds that we're responsible for. And that's one of the reasons why there was a decision to incorporate the recreation, the folks that did the fields and the lining with the Public Works, and that is still being accomplished.
Right.
And the fields are now, we're securing the times are still being accomplished. So part of the system is working very well.
Right.
And with these other issues, these individual issues, I'm relying on Mr. Barr, whose responsibility of recreation is to have these meetings. If I need to step in any way, I'll certainly make myself available. And I do feel confident we're going to take care of this particular issue. But to say that there hasn't been issues in the past, that's just not true, because I've been on this committee for 16 years, and I'm telling you, every year there's some issue that needs to be addressed.
There were not issues, there weren't a lot of issues, because
Well, there wasn't as many kids in the sports either in those days.
No, there was no. There just wasn't issues, because it was taken care of, the rec committee took care of it.
If I may, I'm not sure you're aware. Are you aware of the advisory board, which is because that's essentially the same job and it actually has more clear guidelines than the rec committee did.
Well, I was only told about it from the...
You could actually, the clerk's office, well, they may not be happy with it, but people might not have been happy with the rec committee either with their decisions. Obviously, if it doesn't make a decision that you like, you wouldn't be happy with it. But the bottom line is the same role that the rec committee had is being performed by the advisory board. What has happened here, if I understand Mr. Barr correctly, is that the bylaws say that the association should try to work out internal complaints first, and that was the same rule they had at the rec committee. That if your organization had a problem, you had to resolve it within your organization first, and then if you didn't resolve it within your organization, then it moved up to rec committee. That's exactly the process that I understand is happening now, that if it's not resolved at the board level of that sport with cheerleading and football, that it'll go to the advisory board, the same type. Now, it's a different type of board because it just was too cumbersome. When you were on it, there might have been 5 or 6 different sports. We've added lacrosse, men's. To have 10 or 15 people in a room is difficult to get work done. So the board was taken, they took past presidents of all those organizations that no longer have kids in them. That's some of the main people that are on that board, correct?
Well, tell them who's on the board.
You've got Al Harris, who used to run the football program. I can't really remember all the members on it, but there is a mechanism, I guess is what I'm saying, and that's what was set up. So you could get a copy of the bylaws of the advisory board, the sports and recreation, the department bylaws, all that, you can see how it works. It won't work the same way, obviously, 15 years ago it did, because it's so...
But if it's not broken, I don't know why it has to be fixed.
It was broken.
It was broken.
Well, it was broken in that a number of the required reporting things had to be taken care of. And that was something that we didn't want to jeopardize anybody. There was some other issues of how funding was being used and all that. And I don't want to, we're not throwing anybody on the bus, we're not doing anything like that. But this was a way to ensure that each sports was reporting properly, was doing what was required by the state. And I'd like to say at this point, we're all caught up, okay?
That's very important.
And so everybody's aware of what was going on, and there were a lot of other things that may not appear on the surface that were coming before the Township Committee. And that was one of the reasons why we looked at the structure and tried to find a way to make this a better structure and still be compliant with what the state requires. And then no one can point fingers, who's doing what with what. And let's just leave it at that, because we're not going to get into that.
Well, I don't know very little, except I was asked today.
And that's fine, but I thought it was important for you to understand that there are, again, 2 sides to this issue, okay? And there's a lot of things that have happened, at least in the past 4 or 5 years, that needed to be addressed, and this was a way of doing it, and we worked closely with, Dan, our legal advisor, and how to create a structure that would be compliant with, again, the state statutes and reporting requirements that would still allow individuality based on the sports, but would have a peer group on the top that could oversee and make suggestions for the associations. But in fact, the associations are more hands-off now than they were before, but they're more compliant, and that was important, because the last thing I want is for everybody to come in and suggest that there's things that are not going right. Okay, so that was one of the main reasons why the structure was changed.
People who are running like the cheerleading president somehow is not.
Well, that's an issue that I agree. There's a valid argument there that needs to be addressed, okay? There's obviously, and I think Mr. Barr said that there's a miscommunication, and, that needs to be structured. But I assure you, if you've read the newspapers of the past 3 or 4 months, I have sons, and I am probably the biggest advocate of making sure there's equality on both sides. In fact, there's a story, the one reason why I ran, like 16 years ago, was because I felt the girls were being shortchanged because they didn't have dugouts, and friends of mine, there wasn't a fair shake with softball, and that was one of the reasons why I ran. So if there's issues, that concerns me, because I want boys and girls to have equal opportunities across the board.
The ladies asked for a space or something, and they were turned down. Well, it just cracked me up, because that thing was started by, guess who? The cheerleaders. The first one my husband built, the second one, remember Hobie? That all started, and when I was involved in things, the reason why the cheerleaders could not pull away, but we did the game planning, but we said we want our own association, our own money, because 90% of the money was made by the girls, and 90% of it was spent on the boys, because their things were much more expensive. And we started saying, hey, we want to get, so we started doing our own fundraising, they did their own fundraising, but there still should be things done. You can't cheer without a football team.
I think that this is probably, let me give you just a little bit of background too. I served on the recreation board, served on all the football board, the baseball board, been the rec committee meetings, sat up here for many, many years. Played Indians football. So
They what?
I played Indians football. In fact, my father started the Indians.
Yeah.
Who be that? Long time. It's a pretty unique situation between the football and the cheerleaders. It doesn't exist in any other two sports in the township. There's no two ways about that. So in that case, definitely have not always got along. I had two boys, so to tell you the truth, I didn't care about the cheerleaders. I shouldn't say that. I was like, that's two boys.
That didn't come from me. I had two boys too.
And neither did I when I think good on it.
Thank you. So, the point being that this is a unique situation, and I think we all, I think your concerns have been voiced that I obviously feel there should be some cooperation there. Let's find out what's going on.
Well, the good thing about it-
If we need help, let's go from there.
We used to have 200 cheerleaders, and so we had so many that we had one for this football team, one for this football team, and then we had one for competition, and now these numbers are down, these kids weren't playing.
But rest assured, on my tenures in not only on the rec committee as an association president or representative from one of the associations, but also the township committee, there was many issues that did not get resolved at rec, and we have people sitting in this audience doing the same thing we are today, which is fine, and that's one way to bring it to life. But our position is always going to be let the board do its work. If the satisfaction isn't gotten there, then obviously you have to come back here to do it. I realize there's a time factor, but it seems like that something's moving forward.
But these people, like that, she has to talk with Tom. They have to talk.
I understand, and I'm not necessarily,
They
trying
have to be
to
able to
remember back from years ago to when I was on the football board.
Both you and I were like biggest
Yeah.
enemies. We hated each other. Hated, did we not? Oh, it was horrible. It was like,
Something's different.
no. We really hated each other. But we worked together, and I have the most respect for him. You know what I mean? But we did work together.
Well,
It should work together, let's give them a chance to work together. If there's a hold up, we'll find out what it is.
and listen, going forward, you have a commitment from Mr. Barr and you have a commitment from this committee. We will get this worked out, and everybody will enjoy a great fall season of football and cheerleading together.
Okay.
All right?
Thank you.
Since my name is coming up, he'll be on 208 Route 50. A couple questions, just for clarification. Everybody is now in an association. They all have their 501Cs. What regulatory agency or rules do you have in place to oversee this?
We asked for them to be reported.
Here's what happened, so,
And let me just finish that,
Yeah,
and then we'll
okay.
get the answers. It appears almost every organization here now thinks staying in the township fields. All the equipment, the bleachers, the rights to the field. Do they own the equipment, or does the township own the equipment? And I'll go with the football, helmets, shoulder pads, the sleds, because they buy it. It's being used in a township sanctioned sport, on township property. If they leave, do they take that equipment with them? When it was raised on the taxpayers' money and with donations? Because that's where we're at right now, and I think this is where the problem comes here. What's created now is, these people were asking me, well, if we started our own thing, well, we can't, because they own the 501c for our township football, so therefore, we have to abide by what they say. To me, that's bull. Just because they have a 501c,
Another organization did a 501c.
but again, then they have to come in and they have to buy for their time. I was already asked to start a storm midget football program. I'm not interested in it. I'm fine right where I'm at. But having put 25 years into this program and having went to war for my kids, I pick up the phone. I need goalpost patch. You can't have ours. Well, why not? Township bought them. They belong to our organization.
Hobie, did you get pads every
Oh,
time?
we got it. We had the dance floor. We had the dance floor. I actually had to go out and borrow until the township bought me down markers. Dennis Township's down markers and changed because I was told by that football program, you can't use our equipment. And again, you can't just put it out there and let them run themselves without having somebody sitting over top of them with a whip that's going to say, you know what, here's the rules that you're going to abide by. Because that's what's happening right now, it's a dictatorship.
Well,
And they think...
but let me just say this. You're comparing a unique situation in that you are running an adult program that's separate from the other program. You don't hear basketball asking football for their yard markers. You don't hear basketball asking for, yardage pads from football. So, you're in a unique situation. I'm not aware of too many other sports. I mean, there's men's softball, and they're obviously not using the baseball equipment. They're using their own equipment. So, I think you're mixing potatoes and tomatoes a little bit here.
We would have bought our own had I known we needed it. And the discussions, once we started paying rent for the field, the discussion was if you're going to charge rent for the field, then you should supply whatever is required for that field. And again, I had that conversation. I know Tony and I did, and one of the committee, I don't know if it was Jay or who it was, we had that discussion. My point is, it's not about the equipment. It's about the perception, and nobody knows who owns the equipment. Does Tom Shawcross own that equipment? Or does Upper Township Football own that equipment?
Let me tell you from the township's point of view. If the township holds it, bought it, it's theirs. Certain uniforms and whatnot, it's my understanding, when they merged the departments, the giving out of the uniforms, they were transferred to the nonprofits. They received them. If that's correct, Paul?
Yes.
If it's just that we don't have any control over soccer's budget or their funds, because they're a separate organization, if soccer buys equipment, it's soccer's equipment.
But if the people that are head of that association right now leave, do they take their equipment away?
It's not, if you're head of an association, it doesn't give you rights to it. It's owned by the association.
That's the appearance right now.
Well, that's
I don't know where you're coming up with that appearance, but
Go on the street and start talking to people.
I know a gentleman right now.
The parent pays $75 registration. They have a right to say where that money's going and how it's being spent. At any level, I don't care what the organization is. They're being told they have no say, period. Because they're not part of the 501c. They're not on the board of directors for the 501c.
And we talked about that at the last meeting, I think, where there's two different types of 501cs. And I think there's two different types of 501cs that are organized in this township, too, with regard to the individual sports programs, where there are general meetings. I think soccer is one that has a general, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Young,
I have to check their bylaws, but generally speaking, there's two types of nonprofits in New Jersey. There's one that has members that vote, and there's others that do not have members that vote, that may be contributors.
The perception I see is that there's no control.
Well, the end result is that it's still it's still the township's field. When I say our, I mean power. Okay? When Mr. Young talks about the equipment that was bought and paid for, soccer can get up, the Upper Township Soccer Association can get up and leave and take their equipment. What does their equipment consist of? The balls and uniforms that they bought for their association members. They could go and play somewhere else. They would not have the benefit of the township insurance, the benefit of the use of township fields. What you were talking about, not having, being able to borrow down markers and gold pads or whatever, gold post pads for your organization, that's just kind of lack of a cooperative spirit on their part. I can remember multiple times when we would be, in the midst of football practice in August, and you know how that goes, and we get a call from soccer, guess what, we got the end of summer, we need to use your field. Do we want to? Absolutely not. We wanted to practice football. And they were taking our fields for a whole weekend and the snack bar. Our fields. I said, it's not our fields. You got to do what you got to do. You have to do what you got to do. If they're not doing what they have to do, then, I don't know what the actual process is on the board to get them replaced. I think that's kind of what's going on now.
That's where the dilemma is in.
Let me explain what happens. The ultimate power back then and today of the township is to say who uses their facilities.
Right.
And if this is not resolved at the board level and it goes to the advisory board is going to have to make a decision that will be a recommendation to this committee to say, look, we don't think this organization is doing the right thing unless you do X, Y, and Z, or we're going to sanction another organization to run our facilities. That's the ultimate power of that.
If that's the way the
Well,
procedure works.
we have taken on the responsibility of ensuring that our fields are maintained and safe, and that there's facilities, and we're expanding our facilities based on the expansion of a lot of the sports that are going on. And that's a greater opportunity for the kids to take advantage of. In fact, there's been at least 4 sports, maybe 5 that have been added in the past 5 years. And the reality is we're taking on that responsibility, we're taking on the cost to do that, we're taking on the insurance to do that, but we've asked the associations to take on the responsibility of funding their teams and the equipment and uniforms that are necessary to do that.
I thoroughly agree with you.
And so if that message needs to be brought out, we have a number of reporters here today that can report that the township is taking on that responsibilities, but rest assured that the fields are owned by all the residents of Upper Township, not even those that are involved with sports still own them as well. That's where the buck stops. So if we get to the point where there's an impasse, the strong arm that we have that we've not used and we don't hopefully have to use is that we can make a determination of who's using the fields, okay? And that's just the bottom line. But we don't we prefer it goes through the process, and we want Mr. Barr to do what he's trying to do to facilitate it. And if one of us needs to be involved as well, that's fine. But we also have to be cognizant of the fact that no more than 2 of us can go to any meeting without having an open sunshine act.
I think the frustration comes in, and again, I was at the meeting with Mr. Barr with a lot of parents, is the time frames. And there was nothing in place to really expedite the process until now. And now all of a sudden, and it's being taken care of.
Well, one of the timeframes is he's trying to get 10 people on the same page for a meeting, which turned into Mission Impossible for us.
And also, one of the timeframes is, notwithstanding the cheerleader issue, was other issue that I think you're talking about came about within the past month.
Right.
Okay, so now that compresses the time, and now that's compiling all that.
And again, I think the structure is noted and everybody's aware of how the structure works. The unknown scares the heck out of everybody. And everybody's sitting here at the tier and saying, what do we do? How do we do it? Nobody really knows. And there's
As I stated, rest assured, the ultimate buck stops here because we have the responsibility to say who's using the fields and who's not. Okay? So if it can't be handled in a compromising and a civilized way, which I hope happens, okay, then it'll go further. But until such time, the last thing we want is for the Township Committee to start making decisions for each one of the sports events. That's just not appropriate. We're here to run the township. We're here to make sure that your trash is picked up, that your streets are plowed, that everything else is done. And the last thing you want to do is interact and somehow, be the ultimate authority for each one of the sports teams. It's just not right. It's not appropriate. But we will do our best to ensure that there's a good outcome between, what was presented tonight.
And I think it's bad, it's kind of pathetic that it's got to come before you. I really do.
And I can add to this, it does get to the point where we have adults that can't talk to each other and can't try to iron these things out, and that they have to call Big Brother in to try to straighten things out. I mean, these are independent organizations that have boards, that have adults running these things, that are supposed to be representing programs for our kids.
Unfortunately,
And it's not that way, it's nothing but a bunch of
most people, a large amount of people that are involved in running these organizations, unfortunately, are there for personal ego and their own presence of who they are.
And we've
all been through that.
And we can talk until we're blue in the face about people's motives and why they get involved, but everybody wants to talk about that it's for the kids.
Like I said, I think the committee should make sure that it's out there, if this is the way the structure is set up.
Well, there should be some rules.
And there's a good set of rules. I look at it this way.
There is a set of rules. There is a set of rules.
What people have to understand is, they might be individual organizations, but they're sanctioned by the township, they're covered by the township's insurance, and they play on township's fields.
And there's a
They
set
don't have final
set of
say.
bylaws too.
And-
They don't have final say. The township does.
The
They're a
bylaws are-
liability to you if the programs are not being run properly.
Posted on the website.
The bylaws, if you can't grant it, it's bylaws.
I think it's
And the bylaws are posted on the website.
Go on the website, go on the township website, it's spelled out in black and white.
Yes.
What the responsibility is of the township, what the responsibility of sports advisory board, and what the responsibility of each individual
Put that
organization.
out.
And I'll tell you this, Mayor,
We have been focusing on our new website, by the way, and it's a real resource of information now, so
Again, it's not limited to.
there's a
And
self-advertising.
I can only say, with what I've been up against, trying to work with the individual program, it's not working. I offer to have free clinics for the kids, with guys that play arena ball, D1 college receivers, bring them out to practice, have them show the kids how to run proper routes. No response, and then when I do get responses, we're not interested.
And see, that's not our, I mean.
I know it's not.
That's our concern.
I'm not trying to show you.
It saddens me when somebody offers something to the children of our community, and they're doing it to talk to or to say yes.
I'm saying.
That's sad, but it's not.
I want you to see how the program is being run. That's the only reason I mentioned it. I'll do it for free any day of the week. That's what I'm here for, the kids. But when you have a program that's being run where there's no response, and you do get a response, don't get involved in our program. It's not a healthy program at all. And that's why I said the structure has to be put in place. Just, you made a comment, and let me preface this with, the employees are doing a fantastic job in the clerk's office, as well as the recreation department, doing what they have to do. And they're doing a good job at it. But there is still problems with scheduling. And Mike will attest to that. We've had numerous times where...
I'm not aware of that, Hobie. I'm not aware of any problems with scheduling. And if you have
I've tried to take
issues...
it up with Karen. I've been scheduled to use the community center, and Max Skating's here.
What's that?
When was
Max
this?
Skating was here. This is about 6 months ago.
Okay, so, okay.
Well, listen, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not denying that there were some potential issues. But I will tell you that I have ensured that there are 4 people that are cross-trained in doing the scheduling. And we're all on the same page. And I've given Barbara the responsibility and the task to oversee it. And I will tell you that there's been a major improvement.
Oh, absolutely. Since Karen came here, the scheduling is now in the same office. It's been much, much better. Much better. I'm just saying, it still has a lot of work to move forward. And, I'm an advocate of having a rec director here. I'm not going to ever say that I'm not. I think they're not using our facilities to our advantage to help offset costs. But I look at it this way. If we make a comment, we're saving $400,000. I'm not sure where, because as I look at it, we've only missed 1 employee. We have the same number of employees.
Well, I have it from the clerks, from our purchasing agent, our CEO.
Is it a line change because there's no longer a rec department and the salaries are now in?
There's an overlap in responsibilities. There's salary and benefits and everything else that was associated with that. And to bring in somebody that now has to follow civil service background and criteria, we're talking a very high salaried person to come in to take that over these days. It's not somebody, and by the way, someone has the bumping rights somewhere in this township or somewhere within South Jersey would have bumping rights to come in here to take over that job, okay? So we've looked at everything in all scenarios. And we've had complaints on the other side from individuals that say we're spending too much money on recreation, okay, from a number of residents. And I'm a firm believer that recreation breeds good kids and prevents a lot of problems that other communities have,
I'd say-
okay? And so as long as I'm here, I'll be supporting
We're
recreation.
spending $1 million a year on the recreation.
We're spending more than $1 million on recreation.
If you look at the percentages,
We're spending, recreation right now is probably, other than trash pickup and things like that, is our highest budget, okay, item, line item. And it will continue to be that way, but, you know, just let me say that we're trying to do it in a frugal way so that everybody who is everybody who wants to participate as kids can in a number of sports, and, you know, but we're doing it in a way that we feel is fair across the board.
again, not to doubt your work, but when I hear the numbers, and there's only one employee.
Well, I have a sheet right here that will show the numbers.
When the departments were merged, Hope,
Yeah.
there was attrition, and there was also supervisors that were transferred. So not just, instead of having somebody specifically dedicated, and I'll let Paul answer this, to cut Township Hall, they're cutting they're spreading the work out. So there was less people hired, and also
But even though we have crossovers, we have to take into consideration a percentage of Paul's time, Barb's time, her salary has to be attributed towards.
Actually, we've asked them to do more.
that's it.
So I'm saying,
Well, that's what we've asked them to do. Not only these guys, all of our employees, as the whole business world has
if
done.
we take 10% of 5 employees that is now doing pretty much what Brendan did.
Yeah, but that's saving a salary and saving
Hogan-
benefits.
but Hogan-
That's the point.
We didn't get a salary increase for that additional workload,
We're doing less with more,
It's still
essentially.
part of your salary, has to
I
be
understand.
attributed to it.
but we didn't get a salary
I
bump.
understand that. I'm not talking that part of it. If you make $100,000 a year, and you're spending 10% of your time in recreation, $10,000 is allocated out of your budget towards recreation. So if you have 5 people,
Well, I look at it, that $10,000, if I had a recreation person and he's not doing any more work, I'm getting more bang for the buck by having him do what he's doing, okay? So, you know, I gotta be honest with you, Hobie, I work in the business world, okay? And I work for a company that has 30,000 employees, okay? And they want as the most efficient people that they can possibly get. And when you've accomplished goals, you're given more goals. And, you know, I mean, that's just the way it is right now. We have to work more with
I'm a
less.
business for myself too, I understand that. My point is, when numbers come out, yeah, I just want to make sure the numbers, again, we're saving the benefit package
We
off
can
of one
find,
person, so it minimizes, the savings that we have is minimal.
we combine those 2 departments, Toby. We've probably retired, what, 5 people? 6 people?
At least 6.
Okay, we have 2 or 3 people who are ready to retire. We are not replacing these people. They're not being replaced.
Yeah.
That's pure savings.
Well, I understand that part, I'm just saying, that savings doesn't go entirely out of the recreation line.
As well as part-timers that we
That's
have
all I'm
hired.
saying. I just, you know, I don't.
It comes out of, and see, and that's one of the problems too, when we have the recreation department, the road department, when anytime something happened from the road department or recreation help, they couldn't get a piece of equipment without going and begging and groveling to the road department, and that was a big fiasco.
I was there.
I mean, they played, the road department and recreation department played about the ball the cheerleaders and football do right now.
And unfortunately, no matter who sits at this committee level, that comes down to the committee, because it should have never been allowed to happen. They're all township employees, the equipment all belongs to the township, there should never be that problem.
I don't disagree with you.
And this is the same problem we're having right now with some of the organizations.
Yes.
And
Well,
it's like I was.
Let me just say that our rec supervisor, I'm not throwing anybody on the bus, was just as responsible for keeping the equipment as anybody else was. So let's just leave it at that, okay? And we're beating a dead horse now,
Yeah.
okay?
The last question I have is with the school stuff. That's labor only, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Labor only? I'm in favor of doing all we can, it's labor only with it.
That's what it is.
The only question I had, you made a comment, it has to be prevailing rate.
If it goes out to bid, then they have to,
I know, you know, I didn't know if our guys were getting prevailing rates since they're working on the school, and I would,
municipal employees.
whether that raises my question in the neighborhood.
No, it doesn't.
Okay. I know, I worked in a situation similar to that, and on base, you got one thing, off base, you got another one.
We actually looked into that, yeah.
Okay, good. I just wanted, as a safety, just a safety check that we're not going to get ourselves in trouble.
I mean, we've done a lot of stuff for the school over the years. I mean, like, when they had the roof done, Paul went down and helped them with plans and fit inspects and all that. I mean,
And we should. We should.
The problem with that is this, that years past, they came here, some money, a lot of money, to a point where there was a surplus and it's gone.
But that's the same way with the recreation.
Yeah, to the
I mean,
point-
it's the same attrition.
Now, to the point that the surplus is gone, all the purpose factors and that's because the surplus is gone. The reason was given, by Mr. Scorsese here, was that we gave the money to the schools. And yeah, we can't hold them accountable for it. Now, the schools took the money, did not use it for what it was intended. Whatever else.
But I gotta say-
Not for the repairs, so that's.
When I ran my football program, it was involved in baseball and everything else, the township gave us money. They had no say in what I spent and not.
Well,
But if I ever did it next year,
it's like when the township committee years ago gave the school money, we had no say, we could not tell them what to do with it, we couldn't.
When you got the money the first time, you didn't use it for what it was supposed to be used for. The second time, the third time, the fourth time, at what point do you stop and say, hey, you have to use the money for what it is, or you're not gonna
I
get it anymore?
think this avenue is supplying the labor, not the materials. Is a good-
But regardless, the labor's gonna.
You're getting in an argument, and he's...
Well, we're not getting, we're not.
No, but we already talked about this.
Yeah,
That's all I have to say.
Win-win.
I appreciate it, you know,
Win-win to provide labor for the schools.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's a win-win. How do you figure that? Taxes, we're not gonna get.
And, you know, I hope we get this expedited and take care of the season right around.
Okay, thank you. You're very patient, but you do see I allow a lot of latitude.
I'll be brief. Becky Bird, 6 Marissa Court. As I stated, the last time I was up here, I used to be the vice president on the football board. I understand that we are all adults here, but as I have come to become an adult, I have learned that communication is key. And unfortunately, we are unable to communicate, and that's why we are all here today and previously, and we will continue to come, because right now, whether any of you care or not, there are 2 teams that do not have enough children on the football team. So it doesn't matter if the fields are manicured or not, there are no teams because the children have not signed up because of what has become the last 4 years of the organization, which you have no control over, I do understand. But multiple people have tried in the past years, and this is beyond cheating on applications, which has been done. This is beyond illegally recruiting on the field, which has been done. This has come down to the point where a few people have their own personal agenda on the board currently. They have chosen their choices as they have chosen, and the children are now being hurt because of it. The JV team, there should be 30 to 40 children on there. There's 11. The Pee Wee team, there's 7. And the only reason that there's 7 is because of, due to Ed Barr's direction, he had said to us, please sign up. We have no coach. The coach who had put in for an application, who had been the coach for multiple years, who is the coach for multiple sports, was told you cannot coach for no reason. I was on the board, there were no personal complaints, there was nothing filed, there was nothing. He was told up until that time that he was going to be the coach, and then they felt like they do the last second when they knowingly know there's not a lot of time for us to do anything, this is our selection. So the people haven't signed their children up.
So this is a separate issue from what we talked about earlier. This is another issue beyond...
This is the whole shebang of the issue, is you have some people that are in charge, they have selectively chosen their people carefully as to get their agendas out, and those few people have chosen the coaches the way they have chosen them for their own personal agenda. There's no other reason. There's no other reason. The JV level, the Pee Wee level, I mean, I have multiple, details, evidence as to things with the varsity coach, things with the, but the point is, I don't even care who's coaching. There is no coach currently for the Pee Wee. Last Wednesday night, the coach who was told he cannot coach emailed and begged Tom Showcross and said, Can I coach? What can I do to facilitate this so that we can move on and get these kids so they can play football? And he still to this day has not had a response. And that is the truth. And there is lack of communication. People don't return phone calls. People don't return emails. We are not ignorant. We are adults. We don't want to have Big Brother step in. Unfortunately, this has gone on for multiple years, and it has just snowballed and snowballed and snowballed to now there are no teams for the cheerleaders, for the fields, for anything, and it's a disgrace. And that's why we're coming to you. We don't want to come to you. We don't want to have to be here. But there is nothing else we can do. People have not stepped in that should be stepping in. We shouldn't have to beg for meetings. It's ridiculous. I could give you so many instances of non-return phone calls or non-emails. I mean, what do you have to do? Go to people's homes? But then you're being so directive and so in their face that they get mad about that. Well, what else are we supposed to do? And that's why we're here, and that's why we're frustrated, and that's why if we can just get that simple thing, we need a short-term plan, which we had come up with a short-term plan, and then going forward a long-term plan to try to alleviate. And it has nothing to do with the persons themselves. It has to do with the organization as a whole and how it's being run. And unfortunately, everybody always says it's for the children. Well, it is for the children because the children can't play football. I have 2 sons who cannot play football. Where are they supposed to go? Dennis Township? And just so you know, this is getting to be a global problem where multiple townships know, and it's embarrassing. It's a disgrace and it's embarrassing. And we need to know what we can do to try to facilitate. And I understand that there is a meeting that has finally been set. As of this afternoon, the time was finally set. And it's amazing that we have to try to get the whole football board there, but yet when they chose their selection of coaches, they weren't all there. So this is like, we need your help, and that's what I said last time. I tried to be a little more positive, but we need your help. We need something. I know we don't want the township to have to step in, but it's gotten to that point where year after year after year, coaches have dropped off, people have dropped off, and it's just because of the way the leadership is leading. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Used to be the vice president.
Hold on.
Oh, sorry. Larry Cole, Fort Campbell.
Thank you.
Used to be the vice president of the Township Football Association. I was here on February 7th for the rec committee meeting when we was talking about the coach being on the field and all that stuff. Went into the board meeting the following 17th. The president sat there and pretty much just short of beating his chest said that he's the president, he runs the organization, there's 5 people in the whole organization. And that was it. At that point, when he chose from his own direction to let Ms. Berg go, I decided at that moment that I'm not going to be part of this organization anymore because there's no vote. There's no rules followed. There's no direction. I kindly resigned from the organization as the vice president, and I asked if I could go back to coaching. I didn't want to bring public that I felt this way, but seeing all this chaos and craziness that's been going on and the direction that this organization is taking is very sad. It's very sad. There's no level-headed people involved, from coaches to parents to football board. There's nobody with a level head because it's gotten out of control. It's upsetting. I tried to meet with the Elk Township Cheer Association prior to my resignation. I was told that that's not my position as the vice president. I was told that it was fine for the president to try to go broker the Ocean City High School problem on his own. You're talking about 1 man versus 4 doctors, okay? I couldn't talk to 4 doctors. I'm having trouble talking to you right now. And I'm a business person for a living. Very upsetting that they destroyed this program between the parents, the coaches, and also the board. Something needs to be brokered. Something needs to be done. It needs to happen, whether the rec committee steps in and does something, or whether, I don't know if they're filing properly for filing C3. You don't see any public.
No, the clerk's office annually gets reports from them, checks them. I don't know when the last time that was done.
Okay. And that's the stuff that just want to make sure. Because if it has to be the T's across the last side, then and that's the only way to get it changed, then that's what we gotta do.
When is your meeting? Wednesday?
Wednesday night.
You want me to come? So?
I don't want to be the spearhead of this
Right.
organization.
I will join Mr. Barr for the meeting, all right?
I can't make it on a business trip, but I just want to see something fixed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Kim Pettit, 11 Lake Corson Lane. I'm on the cheerleading board. I was a former Indians cheerleader. I have a son who's a football player. I'm a teacher. I am a Girl Scout leader. I take exception when you say it's about the kids. It's about the kids. It absolutely is about the kids. There are kids who can't play because the adults are getting in the way. Thank you for going to the meeting. Because we have been, no, I'm sorry, but we have been adults about this. You asked us in April 25th for us to be adults and meet with the football board. We've been asking all year to meet with the football board. We've been asking numerous times since April 25th to meet with the football board, and we can't. There are parents here. There are cheer parents. There are football parents here. There are former football board members. There are cheerleading board members. We are all volunteers. The current football board is not the only people who are here to step up to do this. And I thank you for going because we feel that there's a conflict of interest here. I don't know if you're friends with the people on the football board now or not.
Let me just say this. I think that's very unfair, okay? Because I will tell you that any conversation that I've had with Mr. Barr is back and forth, okay? And he has worked tirelessly to try and help and get this situation under control. And I would argue with you, I don't mind attending and I don't mind trying to broker something here, but I will tell you, I just totally disagree with your assumption that Mr. Barr is not working.
I must disagree with you as well because we feel
Right.
I don't know if
Well, first of all,
chastised here today because you've said we need to act like adults and we have been, but you're not seeing our side of it. You're not seeing the parent side of it.
Yes,
I'm
I do.
speaking as a parent as well.
I was a parent also. I am a parent. And my kids, fortunately, my kids have all come through these programs.
And by the way, my two sons played football straight through the whole program.
And
In fact,
to put it straight,
OEL was their coach.
to put it straight, taking sides, I have neighbors and I have relatives that are involved in this on both sides. So I'm not taking any sides. We're trying to hammer this thing out.
I feel like we have not been addressed in this. We've been trying, we haven't been addressed. But I do want to say that none of us would be here if it wasn't for the kids. So yes, it is for the kids. It is for the kids. And there's a cheerleading problem. There's a parent problem because we've asked for dialogue and we've been met with silence. That's not going to get us anywhere.
You're correct. I agree with you.
We will make sure that everyone's aware of what transpires during this meeting. I'm not sure how we'll get that communication out, but we'll find a way so that everyone is made aware of what happens at that meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Now's the time. Are you kidding? No, I'm just kidding. Come on.
The question's for you.
Sure.
She needs your name tonight.
No, she's already said that once.
For the record.
Can you take?
My question is regarding the equipment. Coming from a public school system, being a coach, starting programs with athletics. I want to know if it's different.
I can't tell you specifically. I defer to Public Works and the clerk's office as to whose equipment is what. But essentially, if the private organization paid for and bought the equipment, it's their equipment. There was some uniforms when the merge system occurred that my understanding was that they were transferred to the private organization. For example, softball may have gotten...
Because if you're insuring... My background is crew. Boosters Club purchased the equipment. the equipment then becomes the school's equipment, because they are insuring the vessels, the oars, the trail.
I understand. I can't tell you how, whether it's similar to what you have. I can tell you we have insurance. Our insurance covers all the activities on our fields. It covers the participants. So if a participant is injured through our equipment on our field, as far as the township liability, we're covered. The organizations themselves are covered for injury. I think the only coverage we don't have is if there is wrongdoing within the board in terms of they made a bad decision and they can get sued, or because they're a private organization. But by and large, our insurance covers all of that, and that is something the township pays.
And that's under JIP?
It's not under JIP. It's a combination. We have a rider with private insurance as well.
Okay, but you're not sure.
Well, what needs to be done every year is we have a list of the sports, so that, you know, when we look and we look at the potential premium cost, you know, part of the cost is depending on what sports we offer and what, you know, I mean, obviously some sports are, you know,
It's based on participation.
and some sports have higher premiums based on, you know, contact and those kind of things, okay? But, you know, we list everything down and everything's covered, and each association tells us how many, you know, teams, approximately how many kids are in there and everything, so
We
all
fill
of
that
it.
out every year, we give you, and we also list what equipment we have
Right.
for cheer.
But I think what Mr. Young's alluding to, if a coach says, and I hate to just say football, so let's say baseball, if a coach says, go out and hit the ball without a helmet on, and a kid gets hurt, that's...
Coach is never.
Right, and so that's a big issue. No, but that, and so that part of it, you know, is the issue. But when it comes to the equipment, and I wouldn't say it's the association that owns the equipment. It's not the board. It's not the coaches. It's the whole association as a whole owns the equipment. So it's passed on. As years go on, the equipment continues, whether, you know, if it's still usable, it's used. If it's not, and, you know, I think my son's road crew as well in high school.
Yes.
And you know, that was club as well. It was pretty much funded by parents, and, you know, the same thing holds true with a lot of things like that. But it's donated to school because I think that was part of how they covered it in their umbrella.
That's how the insurance was covered.
Right,
And that's why I asked.
Well, it may be particular to your crew program, because I believe in Ocean City, they actually go the other way around, where the actual crew program insures themselves for some of their equipment because they actually own it. So it's different depending upon what the organization is.
In the last 2 years.
I couldn't tell you the last couple of years. I just know years ago, that's what it was. But bottom line is, we are insured, whether it's their equipment or somebody else's equipment. Our fields are insured, our players are insured against any injury. It doesn't really go to ownership of the equipment. Ownership of the equipment is separate.
My question was about the insurance of the equipment and the use of it.
Are you talking injury insurance or some equipment?
No, I think what she's, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think what she's saying is, if they use the equipment that's owned by somebody else, are they still covered by insurance?
Yes. Our coverages cover all that.
Okay, that's, the rider is covering.
It covers any part of the act, it's my understanding, look at it covers any part of the activity. If you're playing baseball and you have a bat, you're covered. That's part of the sport.
It covers participants, all the participants on our fields.
Regardless of who.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Well, it was a lively discussion this evening, and we appreciate all those that contributed towards it. And just to reiterate, I will join Mr. Barr, and we will get to the bottom of this and do whatever we can to bring sides together and get together and come to a consensus and find a way so that the season can go on and we won't have these issues hopefully in the future as well. So thank you all for your contribution to the Township Committee. So at this time, I'd ask for a motion. Mr. Newman, would you read your statement, please?
Yes, I hereby move the resolution be incorporated in the minutes authorizing the Township Committee to enter the executive session for the following matters pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act. Number one, contract negotiation, cell tower lease and option to renew. Number 2, contract negotiation, Jersey web design. Number 3, litigation, Upper Township versus Yank and San Antonio. I also include my motion, the estimated time and the circumstances under which discussion conducted in closed sessions can be disclosed to the public as follows. It is anticipated that the matters discussed in closed session may be disclosed to the public upon the determination of the Township Committee. The public interest will no longer be served as such confidentiality. B, with respect to contract negotiations, such matters will be made public when negotiations have ceased and there is no longer a reason for confidentiality. And C, with respect to litigation matters, such discussion will be made public when litigation is complete and the applicable appeal period has expired.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Barr?
Yes.
Mr. Corson?
Yes.
Mr. Insera?
Yes.
Mr. Newman?
Yes.
Mr. Palumbo?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you all for coming. Have a great night.